Welcome to the second edition of what we are calling the Film Club. My name is Gabe,
Ooh.
and please introduce yourself, my lovely co-hosts.
Well, hello. I'm still Phil.
Thank goodness.
Nothing's changed there. And my lovely co-host.
I'm the co-host of the co-host.
You're the
I really moved down the ladder here.
Demoted.
Yeah.
Ouch.
That's why I made you the producer.
Okay. I'm Evan.
Still?
That's all you need to know about me.
Great. So as you can tell, we've nailed our introductions.
That one felt pretty good. I was pretty satisfied.
It flowed. It flowed. We're working on it. But we went over our 2019, the monumental year that it was, and now we're looking ahead.
Yeah, we look back. Now it's time to look forward.
Exactly. There's a lot to look forward to, I think. It's not quite as on the surface level intense as going into 2019, I think, but 2020 could very well have some sleepers.
I feel like it's hard to know until after the fact, what a
Yes.
year will be like.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm definitely not expecting it to be as strong as
Yeah,
2019.
well,
It's
But
so hard
Did you
to
expect
top.
2019
No.
to be good? Like that good?
Honestly, I didn't.
So there you go.
But
I
you never
kinda
know.
did.
That's not to say, not to say I'm not excited. I think there's some real uncut gems on this list.
And-
No.
Oh, dude.
Shout
That's
out,
2019 talk. Gotta
Alright.
move past that.
Let's
shout out to Julia Fox. Anyway, that's going to be the last one we have until she's in a new movie.
get into it.
Anyway.
Mm.
So we have got a whole bunch of films to talk about here going into 2020. The first one I want to throw at you guys, which I think is probably the one that at least I think is most anticipated for this incoming year, is Dune.
Dune. Yeah, that's definitely one of my most anticipated.
Mm-hmm.
It basically has everything going for it, besides the fact that it's been hailed as the most impossible thing to
Yeah.
adapt.
Besides being Dune, it's got everything that you could want in a movie.
I mean, let's take off the top of my head, Denis Villeneuve, talent, absolute talent. Timothée Chalamet, overhauling the cast. Just every pore of his body has talent in it.
He's just smoldering talent.
Basically.
Have either of you guys seen any of the other adaptations or like attempts at it at Dune?
No, I've heard.
seen The Lynch.
Oh, you have?
Oh, you have seen
Yeah.
The Lynch.
And horrible, like dumpster fire?
Not exactly.
Mm.
That's my opinion. A lot of people have a lot of different opinions about this movie. I think that
Even Lynch says it was, a failure.
Yeah, well, I think Lynch says that because ultimately he lost control during post-production. But I think there are sequences in it that you can see the potential.
Mm-hmm.
And you can definitely see why he's a great director, but there's a lot of the film that's incoherent in a bad way. I mean, a lot of Lynch is incoherent in a kind of compelling way.
Yeah. You don't know why it's working, but it is.
Yeah, Dune is not that. But
So
I'm very excited for this new one as well.
yeah, I'm interested to see what direction he ends up taking, because judging from Blade Runner 2049, he knows how to take pre-existing properties and really add a spin to it that I think is surprising yet gorgeous.
Yeah, if there's any one director that I feel like could handle it, it seems like it'd be him.
Yeah, and I mean his rise has been just meteoric
Yeah.
in terms of his last flurry of projects. He's really covered the gamut of what kind of films he can make.
What has he done? He did, I know, obviously, Blade Runner.
Blade
and then
Runner,
Arrival. I think those are the two that I've
Prisoners,
Enemy.
Enemy.
seen. He likes one-word titles.
He made a great film while he was still, because he's French Canadian, called Polytechnique,
Oh yes.
which is
Is that about that murder?
it's about a mass shooting at a
Oh.
university, which I think is a phenomenal movie.
Was it a documentary?
No, it's not, but I would say it's shot like a documentary, but
Docu-style?
that's kind of not, I don't know. When it's a fiction film, it's kind of hard to say that with sincerity. It's just good.
Okay.
He also did Sicario as well.
Yeah, Sicario
Oh,
is
yeah.
great. Yeah.
And those are kind of like the big films that he's made. But I mean, just that
Yeah.
list is ridiculous.
Pretty impressive.
I think he's. I'm really excited for this movie for all the reasons that we've already talked about, the cast, etc. But I heard him describe it in a little interview, press release, whatever it was, as quote Star Wars for adults. end quote.
Oh, baby.
Which, as far as I'm concerned, is the best way you can describe a movie. So I'm so excited for this, and I think on his rise, like you were talking about, I think he occupies a really similar spot in the industry landscape right now as Christopher Nolan does, in the sense that he's taking these like very at the surface level of genre projects, but he just like elevates them with such exquisite craft and talent that they become like true works of art, you know, and that he still remains, well, Blade Runner 2049, I wouldn't exactly call it bankable. It didn't really
Oh,
make
really?
money.
It didn't do well?
It didn't make money. It just cost way too much because...
To look like that?
Yeah.
Well, thank you, bankrupt studio, for...
Yeah. But anyway, that's kind of just my analysis. I think that they both kind of occupy a similar spot right now and are both kind of at the top of that spot.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. It's kind of like Blockbuster while also retaining that like artistic sensibility.
Exactly.
Well, that's the interesting thing going into this year is it's slated for a December release.
Yeah.
And that, you know, in past years we've really had, you know, Star Wars in that area.
Yeah.
You know, the past two big Star Wars films in each of their years were December releases. I think people are kind of conditioned to get a lot of like the real big budget stuff in there, and
Well,
I think it speaks a lot that this film is taking that December spot right now.
I wonder if this is actually going to be Christmas release, and I wonder if it's going to be R-rated. That would be really interesting because if it's R-rated, I mean, you know, that it definitely doesn't fit the same spot as Disney.
Well, he literally did say for adults.
He did, but
Right.
you know,
That could mean PG-13.
that could be PG-13. I don't know. I mean, knowing Villeneuve, like, he can get pretty graphic.
He's
you
raw,
know?
yeah.
I don't know. It's just going to be very interesting. But then we've had films recently like Joker and Deadpool, which have smashed the box office ceiling for R-rated films, and I think that's because of their IP affiliation. I mean, I don't know how many like kids went to see Joker, but I know like people were taking their kids to see Deadpool.
Or how many kids read Dune?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
How many
frankly,
people have read
I haven't
Dune?
even read it.
Yeah.
I haven't.
I read the book via Wikipedia description.
Same thing.
And
Come on.
it's a wild story.
Yeah.
It really is a wild story, but I can see, and it makes me excited because there are some visuals, even just by the Wikipedia description, there are just some visuals that are so gripping that I just cannot wait to see how Denis Villeneuve puts it into film, especially considering if he has enough of a budget, which I'm sure he does.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. Do you know how much he has to make it with?
I have no idea.
I'm gonna look it up right
Yeah,
now.
I'm curious.
Yeah, we're gonna
That could be a very big deciding
we're
factor.
gonna fact check. But if it's anything to the level and talent that Blade Runner 2049 had in terms of visual effects, I think we're in for something really special.
Well, you guys were just saying it didn't make that much money, which was surprising to me.
Which one? Blade Runner
Blade
2049?
Runner,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's only because it just cost so much. I mean the production budget itself was inching close to 200 million, and that's before promotion and marketing, which was probably equal to that. So
they spent a lot of money on
it, and it,
marketing.
you know, it just came out at a time, and you know, it's a long movie. Was advertised like an action flick, and it really isn't. There's action in it, but it's like a very small percentage of the runtime, right? You know, it's an art film, really. So at least it has artistic tendencies.
I think
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know exactly how much it made, but it wasn't. It was below projections. I don't know how it did on home video though. That's always an important factor. I don't know how many people watched it in a home video.
Did you get the budget for Dune?
Looking it up right now.
Okay. I'm very curious. I'm waiting with bated breath.
Yeah, there's also, going back to previous Dune iterations, there is a documentary called Jodorowsky's Dune, which is a really interesting piece of filmmaking.
Is it about his failed attempt to make Dune?
That's exactly what
Dude,
it
I'm
is.
telling you.
I don't think they've released the budget for the 2020. I can't find anything.
Ooh, under wraps.
But just to
But
interject,
it's probably 150.
a good backup plan if you're ever making a movie is just also film yourself making that movie, because a failed movie attempt is like great fodder for a documentary.
That's true.
It always works out if you just make that the movie.
That's true. So that's Dune. We got a lot to look forward to there. Even if it's a massive blunder, I feel like there'll still be something.
It'll be an interesting blunder.
Yes. So moving right along in terms of we mentioned it briefly before, but the Tenant, or just Tenet, is coming from the bizarre mind of Christopher Nolan. We have
Bizarre.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the word I would use.
I would say he's very bizarre.
The
You've seen
sick,
Inception.
demented mind.
Come on.
The perverted mind of Christopher
It's
Nolan.
not a negative. I wouldn't say that he's bizarre in the way where, like a David Lynch bizarre.
He's bizarre like a brain teaser.
Fair point.
Yeah, he's bizarre in a way that he likes to bend the fabric of time in literally every single one of his films. Even the most simple war film, he made like
not the
totally jerry-rigged and puzzle-pieced around.
All right, fair point. I see why you're saying that. I guess to me, bizarre has a negative connotation, and to me, I wouldn't. He's just, viewers should know that he's my personal favorite filmmaker working right now, so I don't feel that way.
We've got some editorial bias.
Yeah,
in
sorry.
the audio booth today.
Well, that's okay. Everyone has their favorites.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
But anyway,
So to bounce off of that sentiment that he's very big on time and the manipulation of time and things like that, it seems to be that this film is about.
I don't even know.
Yeah. Evan is actively
the main
avoiding
character, John
it.
David Washington.
I don't even want to hear this part of the conversation.
La 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 la. Just put fingers in your ears.
Exactly.
That's all right. Go ahead.
Well, don't worry. There's very little plot detail. It's literally just that John David Washington plays a secret agent who travels through time.
Okay.
Sounds very Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, it's some sort of espionage movie set around traveling through time.
So is it do you know, in an alternate timeline versus like set in the future?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I guess they've only really released the trailer for this was the one thing that's come out.
Basing off of things like Inception and Interstellar, who really knows?
Yeah, it's hard to say.
Where it's going to start, where it's going to end, where it's going to take a lot of its time.
Where it's going to middle.
Exactly. There's a lot of questions, which I think is par for the course for a Christopher Nolan film, which makes it all the more exciting. Because I'm sure this film is going to raise a lot of questions. Yeah. Even when it comes out and people have seen it.
And a lot of money, too. I'm sure it'll do very well.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be an event. I think it's slated for July. It's going to be a big summer movie. Yeah, July 17th.
Yeah.
It's going to be a big summer movie. Budget's huge. Over $200 million in the budget. So we're going to be in for something special.
What's very interesting is that, as far as I know right now, it's really the only big film that we know is coming out this summer. I mean, Marvel doesn't have any big films coming out this summer. I don't know of any other major franchise. I wouldn't even call it a franchise film, though. Unless you think of Nolan himself as a franchise. Yeah. Any other big summer blockbuster coming out this year, and I think that's going to be really interesting to see how it performs, because if you look at this year, there was films like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, for example, which was a hit. Original IP still managed to be a hit in the face of big films like The Lion King and Avengers Endgame.
Then again, it's like a brand in and of itself, like Tarantino.
Right.
Akin to,
so, but I'm wondering now, it's like, how would Tarantino have done if that was the only film coming out this year? Now, that being said, I think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood hits a slightly different demographic, being R-rated and whatnot, not really being an action film like I would imagine Tenet's going to be,
and also based in a time where there are still people alive that have nostalgia for that time period.
Yeah.
Tenet is not a period film, but the people that love Nolan and respect Nolan's work, and I think general moviegoers in general, I think will just really jump to the opportunity to see this film when it comes out.
He's one of the few filmmakers now who people average moviegoers know his name, and they'll see a movie, they're instantly interested in it just because he's involved in it.
Bless you.
And
thank you.
I guess what I'm saying is that I kind of have a feeling that it's gonna do really well this summer, because it doesn't have any other major, and I would love to see that, because we talk a lot about, there's this feeling that franchise IP is just dominating the marketplace. It's totally taking over original IP. And I just love to see exceptions to that kind of thinking. So anyway,
I think that's so based on like fiscal laziness out of the parts of these studios. You know, what do they know will churn out money no matter what?
Well,
can I make a segue if we're done talking about Tenet?
I guess
Sure.
we're done talking about Tenet.
I'm sorry, I don't
It's
want
a
to.
shrouded in
No,
mystery, so
we
there's only
should-
so much to say.
We should move along.
It's true. There is going to be a little bit of competition,
Okay, what do we got?
and it's going to be the French Dispatch, the new Wes
Ooh.
Anderson film.
That also hits a different demographic.
Totally different demographic.
Yeah, way less average moviegoer,
Yeah.
but like
For
average.
cinephiles like us, though,
Yeah, average.
Yeah.
gonna be
Like
a hell of a
movie
week.
inclined person, definitely must watch.
But cinephiles aren't the ones who bring in the money.
that's
Yeah.
true. That's true.
I mean, the French Dispatch can make money based off of just people like us seeing it. You know, Tenet can't. So
I think there's something to be said for. I don't think Wes Anderson's a big brand in compared to Nolan by
think-
any means, but I think there's a lot of star power that he's carrying into this film, which I think it'll certainly help.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, like Wes Anderson is one of the few directors who is like a brand unto themselves that average moviegoers would know.
I don't know.
I don't know about average,
I
but
think most.
I think people know his films. I don't know if they like them as much. As,
Yeah, no, less
Yeah,
crowd pleasing for
certainly.
sure.
um,
Or like,
certainly.
yeah. But I mean, I would agree though. I'm really anticipating this film as well. I think visually it looks like it's going to be one of his most impressive films, which is saying a lot.
yes.
And yeah, the cast is talk about stacked casts with Dune.
Yeah.
Dune has his work cut out for it.
Can I just like speed through some of these names
Absolutely.
here, just
Yeah.
for the folks at home? So we have, in terms of the IMDb star meter, we've got Elizabeth
Objective.
Moss, Timothy Chalamet, Saoirse Ronan, Leah Seydoux, William Dafoe, Edward Norton, Adrian Brody, Christoph Waltz, Tilda Swinton, Bill Murray, Rupert Friend, Benicio del Toro, Owen Wilson, Jeffrey Wright, and that's just before you pull up the full list, because then we got people like Liev Schreiber and Frances McDormand, Angelica Houston, and Jason Schwartzman, Henry Winkler, and then
Oh,
it gets
shit.
into
Isn't it nice?
some smaller people, but
Yeah.
that's a lot of people.
Pretty stacked.
It's a lot of people for a $25 million budget.
Well, people just want to work with him at this
It
point.
seems like it. Yeah.
He does always get these casts at this stage in his career.
It's pretty incredible.
I will say I'm definitely going to see this movie, but I'm only anticipating it so much because watching the trailer, it did look really cool, but also kind of just along a very similar line to Grand Budapest. And to me, Wes Anderson at this point in his career is kind of just expanding his own universe and like pushing himself, in, like aesthetically, I would say, in terms of what he can film, what kind of sequences he can shoot, all that kind of stuff. But I feel like his earlier movies were more character driven in a way that appeals to me more.
They are definitely more ensembles now,
Yeah, it's all
for
about the
sure.
cast. And
Yeah.
even thinking about like Fantastic Mr. Fox versus Isle of Dogs. Like Isle of Dogs is all pushing himself aesthetically. Like it's really crazy visually, to be honest. But
It's
the movie
nuts.
didn't move me on an emotional level.
Yeah, I would agree. What matters most ultimately is the story and how it's told,
Yeah.
and that's what ultimately is going to matter here. You know.
Yeah, and I feel like that with the new ones, it is more about the ensemble versus and kind of the universe that he's filming versus a particular story.
Although I will say, judging from the trailer of The French
Mm-hmm.
Dispatch, besides I'm gonna contrarian to you and say that I love the fact that it looks like Grand Budapest Hotel,
Mm-hmm.
but there are also a lot of like inklings of Wes Anderson tweaking his style in ways. There's some camera based things and even some interesting visual things in other ways that I think look really different and interesting for him. And I'm looking forward to seeing how those come into form in the final film. I think that's what's exciting me the most is those little inklings, like he's teasing me with like these new things that he's doing. I don't know how it's going to look, but I'm excited to see it and see if there is a lot of extra new gems that he's throwing into his repertoire.
Yeah, it was cool to see that sequences would be shot in black and white and some like animated sections.
Absolutely.
So I'm very curious to see how that all comes together.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's The French Dispatch. Now let's get into a very different film. It's a very important legacy film. No Time to Die. The next...
You see,
Next
this is a
James
franchise that
Bond.
doesn't just fill me with rage. This one I can get behind.
Hell yeah.
You know what's something I can't really get behind?
What's
that
that?
is that the runtime is 2 hours and 43 minutes long.
Yeah, that gets me excited. Especially it's supposed to be Daniel Craig's final stint as Bond, so I
Yeah,
feel like it
it
kind
will
of
be.
justifies that.
It is, but I don't know. I really hope like it. I hope it needs that runtime.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm excited to. I'm still plenty excited to see it. I love the way that the cast has turned out.
Mm-hmm.
I love the director. I'm excited to see his vision and his take.
Billie Eilish doing the theme song.
Billie Eilish.
What more could you ask for?
It's one of my favorite albums of last year.
That was a good album. I liked it.
It's a very good album. I'm just worried about my bladder.
Yeah, I know.
That's really
That is
it.
honestly the main problem with long movies.
I mean, I
Is
got through Endgame, but I don't know if I could do that with every movie. With
Yeah.
like big release.
You gotta like wear a catheter into the theater.
It's interesting that you guys are bringing up runtimes. I was reading a thing, I forget where it was, but it was like taking a look at runtimes of the big box office earners lately, and the runtimes have gone up substantially. Average runtimes have gone up substantially over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Is it like mostly Marvel films or?
Yeah, well,
these
if you look at all the every one is 2.5 plus. Right?
Yeah, I feel like because they're
or at
cramming
least
so
over
many
2
different
hours.
properties and like other movies that feed into this movie that it sort of necessitates that much time.
I wonder if part of the reason why is because it's almost like because there's so many different forms of platforms that viewers can get their media from now.
Mhm.
Like in order to justify going out to the movies for a night, that longer running time is part of the justification. That it's like, okay, I'm going to get my money's worth of entertainment, right? I'm going to get close to 3 hours of entertainment by going. Does that you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes
like,
sense to me.
If it's 90 minutes or 2 hours, below 2 hours, like that. I think if it's quality, it's quality, right? But like I think that there's something about the spectacle of it that like we're going to go out and have a night of it, right? That like we're going to have a night of 3 hours of Avengers.
And I would think that just with streaming and all these other readily available ways to watch things, that if you're going to be going out to the movies, you are, more inclined to be open to a longer runtime.
Yeah, because if you're at home, I think you want it to be more digestible, kind of shorter bits. So anyway, but I'm really looking forward to No Time to Die.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
Irregardless of runtime, I think the Craig era has been the most interesting era of the Bond series.
How many films has he done as Bond?
This will be his
7?
his fifth film.
Fifth, okay.
Yeah,
That's a good number.
yeah, that's a solid number. I think, I just think all there are a lot of good signs, a lot of good signs pointing towards this film being a good film in its own right, and hopefully a good send off for his era, which like I said, I think has been a really great era and a one that really kept Bond relevant. Like you said, this is one of those franchises that you're not like, why do they keep making it, right? I think that's because they've actually done a really good job in keeping it interesting and keeping it like relevant. So anyway,
I think what makes it also interesting to look forward to is that not only is the director Cary Joji Fukunaga one of the writers on the film, but so is Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
yeah.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Which is very interesting.
I didn't realize that.
I'm a massive fan of Fleabag, so I'm interested to see what little pieces of her writing style is in this film. I know she's obviously a very diverse talent. She's done things like Killing Eve and Fleabag, as we mentioned before. So she has plenty of tools in her kit. So I'm excited to see what she brings to that movie, if it's even easy to tell. Because there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people credited for the screenplay of this film.
Yeah, which is usually, I would say, a bad sign. But this film went through from what I understand, basically a complete rewrite after Danny Boyle dropped out. And
was he the original name
he
attached
was,
to it?
yeah.
Do you know why he dropped out?
Over quote unquote creative differences.
Well, that could mean anything.
Exactly. But he ended up doing Yesterday instead.
Oh, that movie simultaneously looked so stupid and also pretty good. I didn't see it, but
with regards to Phoebe Waller-Bridge, I had heard that she there was some idea that they were bringing her on to help update the representation of women in the script.
It's a Bond movie, though. It's kind of like, I guess that's the point.
Well, after Me Too and all of the, new
The social climate.
Yes. Sorry.
Things have certainly changed.
Yeah.
But also, if you're James Bond, like, every woman wants to bang you. That's like the point of your character, you know? You basically can't be Me Too'd.
Well, that's the thing, though.
Well,
You can't make a
you
character
can.
like that
No,
anymore.
yeah. I mean,
You
look.
just-
You need more
it's
nuance
not-
to it.
I mean, there are some really problematic moments throughout Bond history where
Mm-hmm.
the character acts in straight up inappropriate. Inappropriate's like
Like just straight misogynistic.
straight
ways.
misogynistic,
Yeah.
if not
Yeah.
literally rape. I mean, there's moments. So, I wouldn't go that far. That being said, you know, it's supposed to be sexy, and I think that that's okay. They just have to do it right.
Yeah.
And I think that it looks like the lead Bond girl in this one's going to be Ana de Armas, which I'm super excited for. I think she's an awesome actress, and I think that if they can actually bring like real depth to her character, it can be an interesting. And who knows? Maybe there isn't even actually going to be romance between the two. You know, we have no idea.
Give the people what they want, though. This is
Well,
Craig
she's
Glass.
not the only woman, like main character woman in this film, though. We still have Lashana Lynch, who's coming into this film, and also Leah Seydoux.
Right, Leia Seydoux.
So
I have a feeling that Leia Seydoux is going to get killed off in the first like 10 minutes of this movie, but that's just that's my feeling. Anyway, what I was going to say about Phoebe Waller-Bridge was that there was this. I don't know if it was a rumor or just some impression that when the press heard she had been brought on to help bring a feminine perspective to the film and help kind of update things. Well, Daniel Craig was asked about that, and I believe he said something to the effect of like, "That is such a sexist thing to say that we would only bring her on to write for the female perspective. We wanted her on just because she's a great writer, you know."
Either or option. I'm down.
Either or. I don't.
Yeah, that's fine.
I don't mind.
As long as she's involved
Yeah.
in some way, sure.
Make her the Bond girl. That's what I would say.
She'd be a pretty funny
Maybe.
Bond girl.
Yeah.
I'm very happy with. And I'm very excited for Ana de Armas in this movie.
That's true. I'm
Make her
excited
the
to
Bond
see
girl's
her.
funny friend.
So that's No Time to Die. Definitely looking forward to it. I'll make sure not to drink anything before I watch it. Moving
yeah,
right
true.
along, though.
Except for a martini shaken.
Ooh, there you go. Moving right along to a little bit later in the year to September time. We have a film called Last Night in Soho by a I wouldn't call him a guilty pleasure. He's an undisputed pleasure of mine.
Yeah, I would
Edgar
say
Wright.
not guilty.
His fated return to directing since Baby Driver, which I loved, and I'd be gushing forever if we went back and talked about the Cornetto trilogy and Baby Driver and Scott Pilgrim versus the World, but it's about Last Night in Soho now. We're going to talk about this movie because I don't want to start gushing and lose track of time because we got things to get to. But Last Night in Soho is going to be an interesting, actually, from what I could tell, a departure from basically everything else that he's ever done. It's supposed to be a thriller and a mystery, so no real comedic elements involved. It's a very psychological. They're considering a psychological horror film.
Oh, really? It's a horror movie?
That's what I've heard.
That's interesting.
From what I heard,
thriller,
like,
mystery,
somebody
psychological horror.
asked like, Edgar, is this a horror movie? And he was like, yeah, sure.
But I will say,
So
there is
who knows what that means with him? But
there
he
is a-
always kind of blends genre in an interesting way.
yeah, I was going to say, like, there is a very fine line between horror and comedy in my experience. Because so much based around timing that I think that it can go either way.
I will say that not too long ago, a story just got released from Anya Taylor-Joy, pardon me, the one of the main actresses in the film, who's done things like The Witch and Thoroughbreds, and has really pronounced herself as a really prominent young actor. She, in an interview, said that Last Night in Soho is basically feels like a very well-directed acid trip. And and looking back on some of the things that they shot kind of disturb her. So judging by
Sounds like Gaspar Noé, if you ask me.
a little bit, I was thinking about that when I read that article too. I was like, this is starting to sound a little bit like Climax,
Which
and I'm
is
totally here for it.
Totally not what I would expect out of Edgar Wright, but hey, I say bring it on. You know, let's see what he does.
Yeah. I'm really excited. I think the talent here is also amazing. The cinematographer is a South Korean cinematographer who's done films like Old Boy and The Handmaiden.
Oh yeah.
So his work is obviously very, very impressive.
Some good stuff right there.
Also, Thomasin McKenzie, who we were kind of giving flack to with her performance in Jojo Rabbit last week, is now going to be one of the main roles in this film. So I'm excited to see what she does and what she brings to it. Because I think she could pull something off.
She's relatively young, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. She is 19.
Let's not count her out quite yet.
Yeah, she's got time. It's true. But then we also have guys like Matt Smith, who I love.
Yeah.
One of the Doctors, and also was fantastic on The Crown when he had his time. And people like Terrence Stamp, who's just an all-around fabulous actor and has been for a long time.
Yeah, that sounds super interesting. It will be cool to see how he kind of develops and changes up his style, because Edgar Wright is one of the most distinctive directors I feel like that is working today.
Absolutely.
You can immediately tell it's his movie whenever you see one.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see. Do you guys want to know the plot, or do you want me to?
I wouldn't mind vaguely, but I think Evan might be concerned.
Well, you already ruined Tenet for me, so why don't you ruin this one too?
Ruin it.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
So the film is about a young girl who's passionate about fashion design, and she's mysteriously able to enter the 1960s, where she encounters her idol, who's a dazzling wannabe singer. But, as the IMDb description says, but 1960s London is not what it seems, and time seems to fall apart with shady consequences. So there's a little bit of time travel involved here.
Sounds like Midnight in Paris to me.
A little bit of Midnight in Paris, a little bit of Repulsion, which is a big one that he's referenced as influences for this film. I'm very excited.
That sounds cool.
I'm very excited. Yeah. It's going to be very good. Mm-hmm. Moving right along, we have a different film that I want to talk about, which is Top Gun Maverick. I'm not excited for this film, but it's on our list. So why don't you guys take it away?
I put it on the list.
Evan, how dare you?
I am stoked for this movie.
Sincerely?
Gabe, do you know what a plane is, Gabe?
I do, and
Do you know how fast planes go?
And I've
Gabe,
seen
don't you want to see Tom Cruise in one of these fast planes, man?
He's in it again? Is he like the old, rugged?
He's all over it. And listen, I think it's cool. You do you if you enjoy those like handy cam connected to the plane angles where you see Tom Cruise actually doing the thing.
It's not just handy cam. I mean, did you see Mission Impossible Fallout?
Yeah, well that's all I could think of when I've seen, footage of this Top Gun
exactly.
movie. That's all I can think
Exactly.
of.
And I got to tell you, I can't wait seeing what they did with Mission Impossible Fallout. I mean, I think that's one of the best action movies ever made. And if they can do that with freaking F-35s, like hell yeah.
Have you seen the original Top Gun?
Yeah.
I've not seen that movie.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen
myself.
it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't care for it in terms of like story or like fandom with the original. Like the original is like a serviceable movie. Like it's got great moments. Mm-hmm. It's become iconic over the years, sure, but like I just am really excited for the action in this film. I think it's going to be like Mad Max with fighter jets. Like I think it's in the sense that what I mean by that is that it's going to be real stunts with real massive vehicles moving at real fast speed. It's going to be kinetic. It's going to be explosive, and it's just going to hopefully get your heart racing. And that I think is just like, there's so much, especially just looking at like the films now that fit that like action cinema category. Like look at the action you see in, Marvel movies, for example, which I think is one of the like most disappointing aspect of those films. Mm-hmm. It just does nothing for me. And then you get a film like Mission Impossible Fallout that comes along that just like, this is what action movies are supposed to be. And so that's why I'm excited for Top Gun Maverick. I don't give a damn about the characters or the story. Like I said, I have no desire to return to that world. I do have a desire to see planes blow each other up. And that's what I want to see. Right. And I want to see Tom Cruise do it too, because he's freaking awesome.
And isn't Miles Teller in that movie?
Yep.
I like him too. That'll be cool to see.
Miles Teller, John Hamm.
Oh, okay. I'm on board now. That's all it took.
I support that. I don't know if I'm gonna rush to see it in the theaters.
Yeah,
but
this is the one I'll probably catch on like at home, but I'll
No,
watch.
this is what you got. This is the ones you got to see in IMAX. You got to see this in IMAX,
That's kind
guys.
of a good point, actually.
That's the whole point.
Yeah, it justifies itself through that.
it's a fabulous point, but I don't know if I want to spend that money. You know.
All right, well then, give
But
me that money instead, and I'll spend it on 2 tickets for
Yeah, you'll
myself.
see it twice.
I'll power to you guys. You know what I'm ready to spend money on though.
What's
I'm ready to
that?
spend money on Mank.
Man.
Isn't Mank going to be a Netflix film that you can just watch at home instead?
Well, I mean, we don't know what the distribution deal is going to be for Mank. All I know is it's David Fincher back directing. It was a film written by David Fincher's father, who has since passed away.
Oh, really? He wrote the script?
Yes,
That's interesting.
I didn't even
and
know he was.
I don't know the premise either.
the premise of it is about Herman J. Mankiewicz, who wrote the screenplay for Citizen Kane.
Oh,
And-
also another one on my list. Haven't seen it quite yet.
Fair, I recommend it.
Yeah, I've heard good things.
Yeah, it's about that screenwriter and his battles with Orson Welles over credit for Citizen Kane, basically.
That's interesting. And it's also interesting just to think about how Orson Welles has talked about how it was like almost a curse for him having Citizen Kane as his first film
Yeah,
because it like was a shadow he could never outlive.
yeah. We'll have to see where he dives into the aspects of either of their lives. I think Mankiewicz is going to be the focus, played by none other than the wonderful Gary Oldman.
That's nice.
Such good casting. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I think this is interesting because David Fincher has this reputation as being the murder mystery guy, but then you look at a film like The Social Network, which isn't that at all, and was done so well. So I think if he can kind of pull off something similar with this one, hopefully is going to be great.
Yeah, it's a good comparison, I think. If it's anything like that, I'll be very satisfied.
I hate to get my hopes up, but I basically have no doubts in my mind that I'm going to enjoy the hell out of this film. I'm so ready. I don't even know when it's coming out, but I'm excited. Another thing I'm excited about, I'm working on my segues today, is a film called I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Charlie Kaufman.
Very uplifting title for a film.
Yes.
Although this is Charlie Kaufman we're talking about, so fair enough.
This is Charlie Kaufman, also another person who's returning to the writer-director chair.
Yeah, it's been a while for him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Since his last feature.
Anomalisa.
Anomalisa. How long was that go? Like
2015.
Okay, so
He's been presumably he's been working on this film for 5 years. I know he's been doing other things, of course, but not much.
I think didn't he write a novel recently?
Did he?
I think so. Yeah, he wrote his first novel.
Oh,
I'll
good
fact
for
check
him.
that.
Good for him. This film I'm Thinking of Ending Things is based off a novel, an Ian Reid novel, which apparently is very on par for Charlie Kaufman, a very introspective and personal story.
Oh,
So-
actually, his sorry to interrupt, but his
Sure.
novel is coming out in this July.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah, Antkind. So I'm sure that'll be very weird and mind-bending.
Sounds about right. Yeah, I don't know much about this film. It kind of has a vague premise, so I don't really know what to expect,
Is it
especially
based around like suicide? That's what I would infer from the title, or some sort of
basically.
conclusion.
Yeah, that's basically what it
The
is
gist.
gonna be. Yeah.
All right, well, I'm on board. That sounds intriguing.
So that's about all I have for I'm Thinking of Ending Things. It's more like Charlie Kaufman is writing and directing a thing.
Yeah.
So sure.
So you got to see it.
Yeah, basically.
I'm thinking of going to this movie when it comes out. All right, guys?
Hell yeah. Another film that we don't know too much about, but is still very interesting, is a film called Blonde, which is going to be another big vehicle for Ana de Armas,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I was reading about the production history of this film for those who don't know, because there hasn't been any real promotional material out for this film yet, but it's about, I think it's about Marilyn Monroe.
It's a fictionalized version
Fictionalized
of her
version
life.
of her life. And so it's been in development for a while, went through a lot of different cast changes, who was going to play Marilyn Monroe. I mean, from what I understand, kind of like the laundry list of all the major actresses right now. And it seems like it actually landed on Ana de Armas, which was kind of interesting because she like just came up in these past like 2 years, despite the fact that the film's been in development for so long.
I could almost see them wanting to go to a fresher face for something like this.
Yeah.
So they're not really associating it with Marilyn Monroe or whoever that actress is.
Maybe.
In terms of look, though, there have been some stills that have come out of her in full makeup and wears, and it looks good. It looks very good. Andrew Dominic is a very interesting filmmaker,
right,
too.
that's also what I'm really excited about. This is his first film since the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. Gotta say the whole
Actually,
title.
It's his first film since Killing Them Softly in 2012.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But
Oh,
that's
listen to
not nearly as big a deal as the assassination of Jesse James, though.
By
So
the coward Robert Ford.
no,
Yeah.
Whoa.
No worries.
Yeah, and I love that movie. The Jesse James one.
it's been on my list. Too.
Yeah. So, I'm just I'm really excited about it. Like I said, I think Ana de Armas is one of the best rising actresses right now. I think she's just actually one of the. I mean, she hasn't made as many films as some of the other heavy hitters, but she's super talented, and I'd just love to see her getting a role like this that I think is gonna hopefully she'll knock out of the park. So.
I think it's going to be a great opportunity for her to really show off, basically, and really show that she is a front runner in terms of people to really watch out for moving forward. I mean, there's a lot in contention right now. There's some incredible actors on the rise, but her stock has been phenomenal.
Invest now.
Yeah, exactly. Now's
Yes.
the time. Yeah. Move right along. We have The Many Saints of Newark, which is interesting.
This one I'm really excited about.
Yeah.
Although I really have to go watch The Sopranos. But I'm glad that this exists, and it's inspiring me to go watch it soon.
Yeah, having watched The Sopranos, I'm surprised I'm surprised at how excited I am about this movie. I would feel like oh, they're just reviving it, you know, they're just trying to cash in on the nostalgia for it, but I think I don't know, something about it. It's kind of inexplicable. I mean, it's beyond the fact that they have James Gandolfini's son playing a younger version of his father's character.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Which is amazing to me. And I just, that show, for anyone who's watched the show, it's so much more than a gangster show. I think that the later seasons are almost something like a work of philosophy. And I think that in the way that they explore the character's psychology and how they deal with life and whatnot, I think if this movie can just capture a glimpse of that, because this TV show is many, many hours more than this movie will be, I think it's gonna be really cool. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, especially considering the fact that David Chase is behind it again.
Yeah.
You don't really feel like he'd be someone to just cash in on, especially a show like that, which is so acclaimed and like universally beloved. It would almost taint the legacy of it if he just, was in it for the money to do it again. So I'm also really excited about it. Do you know it's coming to HBO or like immediately, or it's going to be in theaters, or how is this coming out?
I actually don't know.
It's expected to have a theatrical release in September.
Oh, cool.
Awesome.
Interesting.
That's awesome.
It gives me just enough time to watch all of The Sopranos and get pumped.
Yeah, I actually think hearing that's great. This is not a made-for-TV movie.
Yeah,
This is a made-for-theaters movie.
that is very cool.
Nothing against made-for-TV movies, but
There are lower bars being set when it's made for TV.
I guess so.
It's different. I think that line's blurring, but I think we're still at a place where we can say something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next film that I want to discuss is Macbeth. Joel Coen of the Coen brothers fame is doing a film by himself.
Yeah, that's super bizarre to me.
Yeah.
Why now? What's happened? What is going on between Joel and Ethan?
What's the gossip?
I don't know. I doubt that it's a falling out. I feel like if there was a falling out,
We would know.
we would heard
I
about
don't know.
it.
Now's the time to psychoanalyze.
But we'll see.
Backseat.
We'll see.
This film is slated for a 2021 release, but we're going to talk about it anyway.
It's very fascinating. Frances McDormand, I believe, is going to be in it, probably as Lady Macbeth. We're assuming this is a straight adaptation. We don't know.
Can I tell you who Lord Macbeth is supposed to be
Sure.
Denzel Washington.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Intriguing.
That's an interesting combination of people.
Is it do you know if it's actually a period piece? Like, is it set in medieval whenevers?
So what it seems like the answer is yes, because the only synopsis that I see of it is basically just the story of Macbeth.
That could be just a placeholder, though. It's hard to know.
That's
this
true.
far out.
And with the Coen brothers,
Well,
with either of
Coen
them,
brother. God only knows what happened between them.
Yeah, this is just very interesting to me. I think the reasons are obvious why it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not much to say about it yet. Obviously, things are in pretty tight wraps, but Ethan Coen has nothing going on. It's just Joel. So
Come on our podcast, Ethan.
tell us what's wrong.
You know you're free.
Explain yourself.
Yeah.
You have a lot of answering to do.
The next movie I want to talk about is a film called The Card Counter, which is the next Paul Schrader movie, coming off the heels. Well, not the freshest heels, but coming off the heels of First Reformed.
Oh, right.
Which was surprisingly a film that I really enjoyed. I didn't think I would really like it that much, but it hit me. It hit me in ways that I was not expecting, and I expect similar things from The Card Counter.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. First Reformed I have kind of mixed feelings about, but I'm just, Paul Schrader is just a really interesting voice, I think, in cinema, and I believe Oscar Isaac is going to be headlining this one. I think he's a great actor.
Cool.
And I think it's just something to watch out for, It's obviously not one of the big, blockbuster tentpole films, but it's probably going to be kind of disturbing.
That being said,
but hopefully in a compelling way.
That being said, the cast list for this film is surprising.
Yeah.
So we have people like Oscar Isaac, who's headlining the film. We got people like Willem Dafoe, who has a good eye for these sort of things.
And a good face for these kind of movies.
Oh, absolutely. And then we have Ty Sheridan, who, for people that don't know, the main gentleman in Ready Player One and was Cyclops in the more recent X-Men films. And then we have Tiffany Haddish.
That's odd.
Who was playing a character named Lalinda in this film, which I think is an interesting casting decision by Mr. Paul Schrader. But I
think it's very surprising that Tiffany Haddish would be in a movie by Paul Schrader. No, I just think that it's totally not her MO,
It's not her wheelhouse.
I'm certain that this film is not going to be like a funny comedy, go see it with your friends comedy.
It's like go see it with your enemies kind of movie.
Yeah.
It'll really make you introspect.
But you know what? I mean, maybe she's got some, some more dramatic act. Who knows what the role? Maybe look, we'll just see.
Yeah, and they say comedy is harder than drama, so.
Yeah, I don't mean to say that she's not a good actress, but it's an interesting choice because usually when a casting decision is made, part of it is the optics of is the audience going to be able to buy into this film as a product, right? And I think she's a huge box office draw for certain kinds of movies. Paul Schrader has never really been a big box office filmmaker, so. Except for when he was working with Scorsese, but that was really just because Scorsese.
Yeah, was the draw.
So it's just very interesting to me. A lot of these details.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how Paul Schrader pulls this off.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
He
may not. He may not. I mean, sometimes I don't think he quite gets there, but like I said, he's always an interesting filmmaker to watch because he's always doing something interesting.
Yeah, I think the idea of him making a film about gambling will be an interesting platform for the story, and I'm interested to see where the rest of these actors fit in.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's go off because those were kind of the big ones to really touch on. Let's touch on some ones that just a little quicker that we don't know too much about right now. but definitely want to make mention of just by the sheer fact that the person who's making it is interesting, or premise, etc. The first one I want to talk about is Benedetta, which is from Paul Verhoeven, who has done such films as the original RoboCop and Basic Instinct, Total Recall, Starship Troopers, and is now making this film, Benedetta, about a 17th century nun in Italy. So
Sounds like a departure.
He runs the gamut of themes and styles. So I'm definitely interested to see where this period piece comes in.
Yeah, his most recent film before this, I think it was called simple title, like Ellie or Ella or something like that.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I'm forgetting.
Yeah, it's
L. Sorry. I heard it was very good, and I unfortunately missed it when it came out. But so I think it's interesting. I guess like when you look at his career overall, and especially like the films that he became established for, feels like a big departure. But this film seems kind of more in line with like L, you know. So we'll see.
It seems like it.
Yeah.
It definitely seems like it. I'm excited to see what spins this historical drama has, because I think the 17th century Italy is going to be a really interesting set piece for this film.
Yeah.
And I'm excited because Paul Verhoeven is the kind of director that really pulls into whatever piece that he's working on and like really finds something interesting out of it. Like Starship Troopers could have been awful. and he found a way to pull things out of it that are very farcical, if that's a word.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And really brought something very interesting. Like just in the heat of watching it, you feel it.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see what people start feeling in Benedetta.
Just looking at the poster for the film, I see a nun who's showing a bit of nipple. So
Oh my God.
I'm already intrigued.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, I think this has given us a sense of what's to come in this film.
It's a little fake looking, but I'll
But I
allow
get
it.
what he's going for there.
Yeah.
I appreciate
There's
it.
something going on there.
Yeah, this is moved
So
on to
he's-
the must-see list
So
for me.
So he's going for a little bit more of a Basic Instinct angle with this one.
Yeah, a little
Got it.
erotic.
Exciting.
Erotic
Okay.
nun, everyone's favorite trope.
This is kind of giving me vibes of the Buñuel Viridiana.
Yeah, I was thinking of that as well.
Yeah, that's actually what this is giving me vibes of, because I'm seeing here another poster that has the title translated to English as Blessed Virgin.
Oh, okay.
If you say so.
Yeah, in French. Oh, the film's gonna be in French. So
But based in Italy?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a
Unless that's just the
combination.
French poster?
Not sure. Yeah, that might be. So
Oh, it is in French.
that would be very interesting
What?
if this may be some sort of kind of spiritual remake of Viridiana, which I think is a great movie.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. Probably not. I don't know if it'll be surrealist like Buñuel. Well,
It's
we'll
interesting to know that he
see.
probably had that in mind, though, as he made this.
I find it hard to believe, but we'll see. We don't know much about this film other than this one poster.
Mhm.
Right. So we'll definitely look into it when
Yeah.
when something comes out for it. The next one I want to discuss quickly is a film called The Last Planet, which is the next Terrence Malick film after Hidden Life, which is going to be interesting because it's based off of Jesus.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Isn't it like a female Jesus?
That's just ridiculous.
I thought I read that somewhere.
Mr. Malik has
No,
jumped
it's
the shark.
It's a male Jesus.
Oh, it's a
Okay,
male
actually,
Jesus.
never
Okay.
mind.
the
Never mind. I'm on
the
board again.
actor's name, oh God, Geza Rohrig. He's the main actor from Son of Saul,
Oh,
which
Mm.
I've heard amazing things about.
yeah.
It's interesting to me that Malik is making two films in back-to-back years. I feel like that's very unlike him. But I didn't see A Hidden Life. I really wish I had.
Great. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's supposed to be very good. But I'm just always down to see whatever he's making.
I think this is a very intriguing film to watch out for. Besides the fact that it's Malik, I think
Yeah.
I think whenever an important filmmaker tries to tackle the story of Jesus,
Yeah, you
It's-
got to assume
it's-
that they're really pulling out all the stops.
yeah, and it's always interesting to see what kind of angle people pull from the different stories of Jesus in his, with his life. So I'm excited to see where Terrence Malick takes it. I'm sure it's going to be very, very visually appetizing. I think it's going to be very naturalistic looking. I think there's going to be a very interesting language to it in regards to the desert landscapes and whatever wildlife he decides to photograph with it this time. Who knows what he'll find?
Yeah, it's also interesting. I've only seen the first two Malick films, but he does have obviously veer into the transcendental. So it's in contexts that aren't necessarily overtly about that. So it'll be interesting to see what he does going just directly for Jesus, the Christ story and just overtly focusing on religion as his topic.
Yeah, I had a similar thought. He's dealt a lot with faith and our understanding of the higher powers of the universe and how we kind of grapple with that in a lot of his films, but mostly through some other context. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I had a very similar thought. Now he's going to confront this stuff straight up, or probably not because he's Malick, and he'll find some way to skirt around it. But I just hope that, a lot of his recent films didn't seem to really be received super well. I think A Hidden Life, a lot of people felt like was a return to form, so to speak, in the sense that it was good. And
it also seemed to be more
let me just finish. I just hope that he can continue this trend, because I think Malick at his best is cinema at its best. I think that his best films are among the best ever made in the art form. And so I just love to, I would love to see that, him hit that mark again.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. And I didn't see it, obviously, but it seemed to me like A Hidden Life was almost more of a return to a more direct narrative for him.
Very much.
So
it's a movie with a script. It actually has a script.
Yeah, so that's kind of a departure for him somehow.
Yes.
So it'll be interesting to see if it's more along that line or his more esoteric.
Right. Especially,
work.
And because, A Hidden Life does deal a lot with Jesus, in the sense that thematically, that this idea of a martyr and this messianic figure, and but it's interesting because it's about a character who is not a hero; he's an ordinary guy who kind of becomes this just by very, very simple actions. Kind of becomes a Christ-like figure. So it's very interesting, I think, to see how he's going to confront this kind of stuff. We'll see.
I agree.
Yeah.
So there's one more film that I want to touch on, so we can move along and focus on some other things that we want to discuss. I'll quickly reference some of the other ones that we're looking at. A film called Il Buco, which is Michelangelo Framartino. It's an interesting Italian film that we're going to be looking out for as the year goes on.
Should I say, because I added that, should I just give a little preface?
Sure.
So this film, I've seen this filmmaker's previous film, which was made many years ago, I think over a decade ago, but this was his most previous film. It's called Le Quattro Volte, The Four Times. It's a very interesting movie. I don't know anything about Il Buco other than he made it, and I just am interested in it.
Yeah, just
not much to say.
Skimming his Wikipedia page, it seems like he's more, art house in a literal museum sense than he is a filmmaker, generally speaking.
He might be. Le Quattro Volte is a film. You sit down and you watch it in one sitting. It's not something that you see on a museum wall, but that might be the rest of his stuff.
Yeah, it seems like he basically one of his only feature films besides Il Dono in 2003. Otherwise, he has short work and then actual museum installations.
Yeah, whatever.
The next one that I want to touch on is a film called Memoria, which briefly is a film directed by Apichatpong Weerasethakul.
It's Apichatpong Weerasethakul.
Thank you.
Way to flex, Evan.
Sorry, I've just said it many times. I've practiced in the mirror. Or he just says to English speakers, you can just call him Joe.
That's a lot easier.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I like that better.
He's best known for Uncle Bonme, Who Can Recall His Past Lives, which is one of the most well-regarded films of the past century.
Yeah, I love that movie. It's a great one.
Palme d'Or winner.
Palme d'Or winner, absolutely. He's coming out with a film with Tilda Swinton in it. That's really all I need to know. It's very exciting.
Yes.
There's
Joe and Tilda finally teaming up.
Oh, thank God.
This is such a perfect Tilda Swinton thing because I feel like she's such an interesting actress because she knows all these crazy art cinema filmmakers and she wants to work with them, and yet she's also like super mainstream and people know her, you know, like average viewers. I mean, she's in Marvel, you know.
Yeah.
I think she's just such a fascinating. She has such a fascinating career, and so I'm super excited that she's doing this.
Yeah, it's so fun watching her go between like Luca Guadagnino and Wes Anderson
Yeah.
and Marvel. It's absolutely amazing. She's one of my favorites. Another film, second last film here that I want to touch on is a film called Bergman Island, which is a Mia Hansen love film that's going to be coming out. She, for people that don't know Mia Hansen love, she's one of those directors that makes very quiet and psychologically personal driven family stories about based usually about women and some of the intense traumas that women can experience in their lives, basically. So I think Bergman Island is going to be right up her alley. It's about a filmmaking couple that goes to the place where Bergman got most of his influence for his films, and I think I'm excited to see what her writing brings to this, and also what Bergman influences make their way into it too. I think it could be a very interesting love letter.
Is she Swedish?
Let me see.
She was born in Paris. I don't know about her nationality though.
I'm just curious. I don't know. I just feel like, you know, because Bergman was Swedish.
I'm not sure.
Whatever.
Seems like she's
Not
somehow Scandinavian based on the O with a cross in it in her name.
Yeah, that's a very Scandinavian thing.
It's true. So
Anyway.
that's something. It's a little something. The last one I want to talk about is Genre Panchi, which is the Yimou Zhang film. It's going to be a gangster film. The first time that this director has ventured into that particular area of fiction. He's best known for Hero and House of the Flying Daggers. So going from some things like that that are kind of more period and more action heavy. I'm interested to see what he brings to the gangster genre.
Yeah, I'm interested in it because I think he's I almost feel like he directed The Great Wall, this movie with Matt Damon and Willem Dafoe a couple years ago.
How could I forget?
Which certainly is not a great movie, but when I saw it, I was actually surprised at how not bad it was, because it looked like it was going to be terrible.
I was not a fan.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with you there, but I think he's an interesting filmmaker. I mean, this doesn't seem to be the kind of film that's going to like cross these cultural boundaries and be this massive international mega hit, which Great Wall was kind of supposed to be.
Who knows?
But I think he's just a filmmaker who almost has that potential to make that kind of film. I mean, films like Hero and House of the Flying Daggers have, especially Hero, gotten a lot of international acclaim, and you know, they show up on Netflix and whatnot. People watch them, they like them, and I think he's that kind of filmmaker who almost has that ability to make that that international mega hit, you know, that China really wants and Hollywood really wants too. So this doesn't look like it's going to be that film, but he's still an interesting filmmaker to watch. So
I absolutely agree. I'm excited for that. So that's the films that we're most excited about. That's the positive side of this conversation. We're going to move ahead to a different piece of conversation, which is basically what we expect is going to suck.
this is the fun part.
What everyone's been waiting for.
Hating on stuff that no one can defend.
Yeah, and we haven't even seen yet.
Because we're just a bunch of three idiots on the internet. Here we go, guys. Let's talk about Marvel.
So I just have this feeling that I'm not even going to say that like Marvel fatigue is going to set in, but I just have this feeling that like Marvel is not going to be able to top the Thanos saga, the Infinity Saga, whatever they're calling it, and that they're gonna run out of steam, and that like they're just like whatever they try to do from now on is just gonna fail. I just kind of have that feeling.
I sure hope so.
Let's talk about stakes for a second here, guys. In Avengers and Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, the main antagonist of the film, Thanos, of both films, kills literally half of the entire world. And then and then we got a Spider-Man movie which had like Ant-Man size stakes in comparison. And now this year we are getting a Black Widow film, which I'm not going to spoil anything, but is very unnecessary. And we're getting a film called The Eternals, which besides having the weirdest cast I've ever seen in my entire life, it's a gamble. The Eternals is going to be a massive gamble at the end of the year for Marvel, mostly because I'm not saying it's because it's directed by, for the first time, a female, Chloe Zhao, who I think is actually incredibly talented. I don't think she'll be bringing what I think is going to be a problem with this film. I think it's going to be more that the Eternals is not going to know what to do with itself when it comes out, and it's going to try to be Guardians of the Galaxy and basically fail. That's essentially what I'm expecting from that movie, just because they have a ton of characters. From what I can tell, the story is kind of confusing. The Eternals are basically the Greek god mythological beings that create superheroes. I have no idea what is going to happen in this movie. Like, where do you go from that? How do these beings interact? Like, what's their world like? It's not like Guardians where you have this, like present day Earth or like 80s Earth or whatever. And then you also have like the civilizations that are already there. If these are supposed to be like Greek gods, what do they have? I have no idea what this movie is going to be. You got people like Angelina Jolie, Richard Madden, Salma Hayek, Kumail Nanjiani, who is a comedian, Kid Harington. I just
very stacked cast.
I'm so confused. I'm very confused by this film.
Yeah, definitely hoping that movie fails. From my backseat.
So, listen, just because we're putting this in the dumpster fire section, I hope to be surprised.
Yeah. I mean, look,
at least by the Eternals. I'm not even going to watch Black Widow.
I don't want any movie to be bad. I just have a feeling that it will be. That's all I'm saying.
Yes.
Like I want every movie to be good. I'm sorry.
That's not how the world works.
I got to be honest. It's just like,
for there to be good movies, there have to be bad movies too.
Oh, but with regards to the stakes, so if Thanos was only going to kill half the world's population, you just raise the stakes by making the new bad guy want to kill the whole world's population.
It's so easy.
That's never been done before.
Okay, all right. There
you go.
I see you.
Well, there have been like Death Star situations, whole planets imploding. But
shut up, Phil.
That's beside the point.
Let's
different universe. It's unrelated.
Speaking of different unrelated universes, let's talk about Godzilla vs. King Kong. Can I preface real quick? I love kaiju films.
So do I.
The big, just ridiculously massive monster movies. I like King Kong, the original King Kong, the original Godzilla rank among the top 10 favorite films ever for me. I think they're both masterpieces in their own special ways, and I love both characters. I have a weird affinity for Kong Skull Island, literally just because I think the Kong in that movie is adorable. So I'm excited to see him again. But I think this movie's going to be bad. I don't know what to do with myself. I'm so sad that I have to sit here and say that this massive film is not going to be something I'm going to be enjoying watching.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think this is the battle everyone's been waiting for. See who can come out on top.
I actually don't think anyone has been waiting for this. I think,
but when you hear about it, you're like, I want to see that.
I think people will probably go to see it because it'll come out
and those big names,
and it will be advertised. There will be a lot of marketing for this film, and people looking to go out and see a movie on a Saturday, like they'll go out and see it.
Like, that sounds badass. King Kong versus Godzilla.
But I mean, this bothers me on a lot of levels. I love the Japanese Godzilla films. They're some of my favorites. I agree. I think the 1954 Gojira is an amazing movie. And even a lot of the intermittent Godzilla films, though being incredibly campy and having very dated special effects and having completely incoherent plots, they're not very good. I still love them. I think that the 2014 Godzilla, Gareth Edwards Godzilla, was actually pretty good. The American Godzilla. I thought Godzilla King of the Monsters was not very good.
I still have to see that. Just by sheer obligation, basically.
And I'm also kind of annoyed because I was reading about this. So the 2016 Japanese Godzilla film called Shin Godzilla, I thought was fantastic.
I love that movie.
Yeah, highly recommend that.
Love that movie.
If you want like a good Godzilla film, watch that one. But apparently Toho, is like kind of sharing the IP with Legendary right now, and they have this stupid clause in the contract that they can't release they can't both release Godzilla titled films in the same year. So Toho has been holding off on making a follow-up to Shin Godzilla because Legendary has had this slate of Godzilla films, and that really angers me because I don't really want to see the Godzilla v Kong. But
well, I do, and I haven't seen any Godzilla or King Kong for that matter. But I'm excited.
By morbid curiosity.
You're the target audience, Phil, because you don't have anything to compare it to.
That's basically true.
I mean, if you compare it to the original Godzilla versus King Kong, I assume people are gonna expect.
Does that exist?
That it certainly does.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
And that movie's bad.
Yep.
So there you go. It was due for a remake.
And that was a whole nother thing too. I remember first discovering that movie and being like, "Oh my god!" And then I watched it.
Yeah, like
that was.
I should try this again.
And
now they are.
And they sure are. Hey guys, let me shift gears for a second here. So, this year, it came to me at quite a surprise, but this year, we finally get the sequel to Minions.
Finally, my God, I've been waiting for however many years it's been since Minions came out.
2015. It's been 5
years.
Long years.
It was that long ago?
I can't believe it.
There was definitely another movie with Minions in it since then, though.
They've never really gone away. They're in commercials constantly.
I don't.
Maybe that's what I'm
Come
thinking.
on, man. You think I keep track of this crap? Like, who? Come on. It's the Minions. What do you?
Well, I certainly don't.
I've actually seen No Despicable Me, which is
I saw. Well, you're not missing much with the Despicable Me movies.
I saw the second one. I heard the first one was good.
It's okay.
But
it's all right. It's all right. Minions, the first Minions film is not good. I was on a cruise once, and this was one of like 5 films that they showed on repeat during the whole week-long cruise. So I got very intimately familiar with the original Minions, and it's bad. It's very bad. It looks bad. It's all bad. So suffice to say, I'm very excited for July 3rd of this year when Minions: The Rise of Gru comes to theaters near you.
We just need Gru versus Godzilla versus King Kong coming out in like 3 to 5 years.
Get on it, Illumination. The ball's in your court now. What do you got for us? And that's basically it for Dumpster Fires. There are other things.
I mean, if we were making this podcast like a couple weeks ago, I think we would be predicting Doolittle, and Doolittle was. So, anyway.
Retroactively, we got it right.
Yeah.
That's true. I'm going to make an executive decision right now and say that Venom 2 is also going to be a massive dumpster fire.
Probably.
Seems very likely.
But
I can't believe what they're doing with the Carnage character. I am horrified besides the fact that it was one of the stupidest end credit scenes, I don't care that I'm spoiling this. The fact that
I didn't even see.
in the end credit scene of Venom, they introduce Woody Harrelson as the Carnage character.
Whoa.
Carnage is usually a really interesting, just merciless version of Venom, who has this really cool red and black suit. He's a really interesting and like brutal character. And of course, in this end credit scene, they made Woody Harrelson basically look like a clown with his ridiculously stark red hair. And I've seen some behind the scenes stuff of this incoming film, and it looks so bad. Woody Harrelson still looks ridiculous. He looks like what he brought into his if he ever tried to take the Joker role from Joaquin Phoenix, that's basically what he would look like. I'm so unexcited about Venom 2, even though it's going to be directed by Andy Serkis.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to add anything to this film.
That just makes there are a couple things about it that make me curious. One, Andy Serkis is directing it.
Right.
I think I would call him an underrated actor, but
actor.
I guess he does get acclaim. I think his work with the motion capture is really underrated. I think like he's doing amazing stuff with that, but that's my opinion anyway. And also that like maybe they got Tom Hardy on a multi-film contract and that's why he's returning, but I felt like I remember reading somewhere that he like what Venom ended up being is not what he kind of wanted it to be and like thought it was going to be, and that there was going to be a lot of like experimenting with tone and genre and stuff like that, and that a lot of that stuff kind of got cut out of the film.
Not surprised.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't see the film, so I'm kind of talking out of my experience here, which I admit, but something about like the fact that maybe this will be that, maybe Venom 2 will kind of be that, probably not. I'd say there's probably a 0.3% chance of that happening, but I'm curious about it.
Maybe.
I'm skeptically curious. That's why I put it in the skeptically curious category on my list. It's skeptically curious.
Fair enough. I have nothing else to add. But speaking of the curiously and cautiously optimistic sections of these, Death on the Nile, I need to preface and say that I strongly disliked the Murder on the Orient Express remake that Kenneth Branagh made. Not only was it shot and edited horribly, but I think it was particularly self-indulgent for Kenneth Branagh. I think his character, like, visually looked disgusting.
I've only seen bits of it, but that is the most obnoxious mustache I've ever seen.
You know what's weird
it's
about
like
it?
30% of his face. I mean, it's insane.
You know what's weird about that, too, is it's not even just the mustache. The rest of his facial hair looks ridiculous. Like, it's the mustache plus everything else that is on his face, and it just doesn't work. It looks weird. It looks wrong. I don't get it.
He's basically like, how can I make a movie to justify this facial hair?
Basically.
And then he didn't do that.
I guess I'm just thinking, like, when I heard about Murder on the Orient Express, like, before it came out, before I saw any footage, when I just heard it was happening and I saw the cast, it was like, all right, Kenneth Branagh is going to do Hercule Poirot, he's going to do Agatha Christie. Like, that has a lot of potential. Like, just that setup, right? So maybe Death on the Nile can hit that. I mean, I would say looking at what Murder on the Orient Express kind of turned into, I don't know. There's not much reason to be optimistic, but one can hope, right? That like the stars align and he gets it right. But we'll see.
We'll have to see. I'm hoping that with a change in scenery and a change in story, this film will provide something else, but I am cautious.
Cautiously skeptical.
Yes, absolutely. One that I can say that I am legitimately cautiously optimistic about is The Woman in the Window.
Yeah.
I think it's another one of those films that just has a really stacked cast, and I'm guessing it's because a lot of people like this is a very well acclaimed book by A.J. Finn, and the director Joe Wright is also very talented. Darkest Hour, which isn't a great movie, but you can definitely see where
I like Darkest Hour quite a lot, actually.
you can see where Joe Wright's directing prowess is with that movie. He's done Atonement, Pride and Prejudice. He's done The Soloist. He's done a whole bunch of different stuff. I think there's a lot of potential to this film, especially when it's helmed by Amy Adams, and she's got a great supporting cast behind her with Anthony Mackie and Jennifer Jason Leigh, Gary Oldman, Julianne Moore. It's a lot of people, a lot of possibilities. Yes.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about this film until I saw a trailer for it at the movie theater and was like, what is this? Why does this movie have so many good people in it? And I've never heard of it. And the trailer was not a good trailer. Doesn't mean the movie's going to be bad. Just means the trailer, I don't think they sold it very well. So that's why I'm cautiously optimistic about it. I think like if I read about it on paper, I'd be like, oh, wow, that sounds like it's going to be good. Then I saw the trailer and I don't know, but I try not to judge films by their marketing. Sometimes it's hard, but I try not to.
That's very fair. The last one to be cautiously optimistic about is Robert Zemeckis directing The Witches, pardon me, the classic Roald Dahl novel. I don't know what to expect with this film. It's supposed to be family-friendly comedy adventure tone, which I think is exactly what this film needs. But I don't know. I don't know about Robert Zemeckis right now. I'm feeling weird.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always down. I think Roald Dahl is like one of the most visionary artists, and I think there's so much potential in his work for like really compelling cinema. I don't know if Robert Zemeckis is the right guy for that right now, but that's why I'm cautiously optimistic, right? Like we'll see. It could be really good. Could also be a total dud.
Right. Robert Zemeckis is such a wishy-washy director.
Yeah, it varies so much.
Yeah.
I mean, you get stuff like, Back to the Future, Forrest Gump, and then you get things like Welcome to Marwin.
Yeah.
Which just kind of came and went. I didn't hear anything good about it. And then you get stuff like Beowulf and The Polar Express, which, while they are certainly memorable films, are not particularly conducive to making me excited to see The Witches. It was a weird experimental phase for him that I'm hoping stays back in the mid 2000s. I'm interested. I'll wait to see some promotional stuff to really get an idea of what this film is gonna feel like, and then then we'll see.
Yeah.
But, if it's like a bed knobs and broomsticks kind of style, I could go with that. But these things remain to be seen. Skeptically Curious Films. There's a new Sofia Coppola film coming out called On the Rocks, which I think, just by the fact that Sofia Coppola is a very intriguing director, she's done amazing films, some not so amazing films.
Another hit or miss director.
Yeah.
I think she's got potential to really to even really explode more than she already has, and I think with this film it's going to be something really interesting. She's returning to work with Bill Murray in this film.
That's promising.
And I think the two of them together, their camaraderie speaks for itself by this point. It's going to be a comedy drama combination, which I think is exciting, especially since the other actors that are like some of the main character actors are going to be Rashida Jones and Jenny Slate, who are obviously much more comedy-based actors, and I think will provide something very interesting to this film, especially with Bill Murray by their side. I'm excited.
Hot take. I like Jenny Slate. Rashida Jones I find pretty insufferably bland. Just going to put that out there.
I don't blame you.
What has she done since Parks and Rec?
She had a sort of comedy cop show, I think, on TBS for a little while. She married Ezra Koenig from Vampire Weekend,
Oh, really?
or is at least engaged to him. She's just like pleasant, but doesn't really do much for me.
She's one of those people that kind of like throws her hat into a whole bunch of different things. Like she was in that movie Tag, which
everyone
nothing.
saw.
Yeah, the Grinch movie that Illumination did, which was obviously a masterpiece.
She apparently, looking at Wikipedia, co-wrote the story of Toy Story 4. Huh? That's
right.
Apparently.
That's right. I remember seeing that in the end credits and being like, oh, interesting. That, although I heard that that's kind of a weird spot, point discussion, that whole piece of Toy Story 4's development. But that's a very complicated and long story that we don't have to get into right now.
Anyway, screw Rashida Jones. Moving on.
Well, there's the title of our podcast, I guess.
Screw Rashida Jones. That could
Episode
be the episode
2.
title.
Yeah, that's not going to get us any heat at all.
We got to stir some controversy at first.
Got to get people talking.
Yeah, exactly.
The only way to do that is by hating on someone popular.
We'll pick a person each week.
Well, just to air my thoughts real quick on The Rocks. I don't know. Admittedly, I guess aside from Lost in Translation, I haven't seen what's the other big, the Virgin Suicides, right?
Yeah.
Is big. I haven't seen the Virgin Suicides.
It's a very good movie.
Yeah.
It's got its moments, but it all in all, it's a memorable movie.
And I saw The Beguiled, which was her, I think, most recent film back in 2017, 2016, whatever. Which I thought The Beguiled was really overrated. Actually, I was really not. It just didn't do anything. It just totally did not affect me in any way. It was kind of pretty, but that's it. So I don't know. Like I'll see. I generally tend to think of Sofia Coppola as an overrated director, frankly. I mean, even Lost in Translation, which I know a lot of people love. Maybe this is. I think it's a good movie. I personally don't think it's this like masterpiece, but maybe I just need to take another look at it. That's my feelings. I mean, on The Rocks, like I'll try to see it. I'll keep my eye out for it. Continuing theme, I want it to be good, but I'm just not. I guess I'm just not like super, super hot on Sofia Coppola. If you know what I mean.
I would tend to agree with that too. I think she's fairly overrated, but I will say I love Lost in Translation, and my experience with that film was watching it the first time and kind of being like, it was pretty good. I don't really get it. And the second time, I really, really loved it. I think it's like a fantastic film. And my friend was texting me today, actually, and I watched it for the second time with him. It was his first time watching it, and he thought it was only okay. But he watched it last night, and now he said basically the same thing I said, where it went from okay to being great. But outside of that one film, I do kind of think of her as being somewhat whatever,
I
so
guess I got to check it out again then.
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth a rewatch. But overall, I don't find her the most interesting of directors.
That's fair. I'm excited. We'll see. Another thing I'm excited about, but I'm skeptically curious about, got to keep in brand, the Trial of the Chicago 7, Aaron Sorkin's director/writer follow-up to Molly's Game, which is an interesting piece of filmmaking that it certainly got the writing. I think Aaron Sorkin still has to kind of iron out some things with his directing style. I think there's a lot of room to grow though. And that's why I'm excited for the Trial of the Chicago 7, because I'm excited to see what he did learn in his experience with Molly's Game. I'm hoping that everything from that film basically gets elevated for this film. It's got a lot going for it. He's writing it, of course. It's got a fabulous cast, including Sacha Baron Cohen, who I'm so excited personally to see in a role like this. I think it's going to be massive for him.
That's cool. That sounds promising.
And he's backed by people like Jeremy Strong, Eddie Redmayne, Michael Keaton, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Mark Rylance, a solid cast list. And I'm really excited to see how they all work off each other. And I'm hoping that, like I said, Aaron Sorkin's directing takes shape in more of a way than with Molly's Game, because I think that was definitely a weak part of that film, for sure. Glad you guys agree.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I have nothing in particular to really say about this film. I'd probably see it, but I don't have any strong feelings either way.
Yeah, I mean, I think Aaron Sorkin is a great writer. Some people don't like his style. I think it's great, and I think his characters are wonderful, and the dialogue is so exciting. I don't know why he decided to start directing, frankly. I had started to read that with Molly's Game, like they just couldn't find anyone to direct it, and he was like, well, what the hell? Which, as far as I'm concerned, is not a good reason to start directing, but maybe he just decided to double down now. Maybe he found that he really liked it.
No matter what the critics say.
Yeah. So I don't know why, like he was considered, I think, one of the best working writers. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
Every list of,
best
writers, he was on it, no question.
I still think that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, I just saw his To Kill a Mockingbird adaptation on Broadway a couple months ago.
I don't think he wrote that.
No, he did write it.
Oh, really?
He adapted it
Okay.
for the stage.
Gotcha.
Obviously, he didn't write.
I was trying to be a dick, but you had to cut me there.
But as an adaptation and as a play, there's a lot of original dialogue in it,
Mm-hmm.
and it was fantastic. So yeah, he still is a great writer.
And
right?
he directed that as well. That
No,
adaptation.
he didn't direct it.
Okay,
he
well.
didn't direct it. But and also directing a play is a different animal than directing a film.
Yeah.
But I just don't know. I just don't know why. Like look, maybe he can do it, right? Maybe he can do it, but we'll see.
Probably not, though.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. We are skeptically curious. One more thing that I'm skeptically curious about, just as a quick aside. I just want to reference this really quick. There's not a lot going on with it right now. A film called The Five Bloods, which is the new Spike Lee joint coming out pretty soon. Chadwick Boseman and Paul Walter Hauser.
The Five Bloods.
And Gene Resnick.
The Five Bloods.
That's what I said.
Oh, I thought you said The Five
Oh,
Bloods.
of course not. Please, I know what that title is. No worries. I'm excited. I like Spike Lee. I think I enjoyed Black Klansman quite a bit. I think his stock's in a good place right now. So I'm excited to see where The Five Bloods does end up going. But that's just, we'll see how that takes shape more, because there's really nothing going on. Last thing I want to talk about is a section called Why. We have a lot of films coming out this year where you can kind of just look at them and ask yourself, why? Why this? We're basically just going to have a general discussion about these films, because I think they all kind of fall in the same category of why.
I think this is actually a trend that we've seen happen over the past couple of years.
Oh, absolutely.
I mostly associate it with the reboots and remakes. I mean, some of these films that we have on this list, Bill and Ted Face the Music, Scoob, In the Heights, West Side Story. These films, I mean, aside from maybe Bill and Ted Face the Music, I don't think anyone asked for these films,
I will say, did you say In the Heights? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That one I could see. It hasn't been adapted to film yet.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the musical, but I like Lin-Manuel, so I'm at least intrigued.
Yeah, I think the hype train for him is kind of at a high place right now. So
Yeah.
I could see why they'd want to adapt one of his works, but with these other properties,
Yeah.
I don't know what the plan for Mulan was.
Well,
I don't know what
Yeah.
Scoob is meant to bring.
Scoob I'm excited about, genuinely. I like Will Forte. He's playing Shaggy.
He sounds horrible
I haven't
as
seen-
Shaggy.
but I like Will
was
Forte.
that supposed to be a Shaggy impression, Gabe?
believe
Because that
it.
almost sounded
Yeah,
like,
blended into it.
that almost
But I like the
sounded-
animation
I was just
style.
actually very passionate about how much I don't like Will Forte's voice with Shaggy.
I like Will Forte's voice, but just the name Scoob is pretty is enough for me to like it, and the animation looks cool, so I'll definitely see that. I like Scooby-Doo in general.
I don't know. We'll see.
I guess it's fun. Like, we want our initial reaction, right, to these films is why, right? Like, why are they making this? Who asked for this? Doesn't look very good. But I think we also know the answer. Why? Money.
That's
Exactly.
sweet nostalgia money.
And because these films bank. I mean, every Disney live action, quote unquote live action remake has made a lot of money.
a ridiculous amount of money.
And it's, it's like And so that's why. I don't know. That's
I know,
what's
yeah,
so weird.
That is why.
Are we in the minority here in that we are the ones who are skeptical about these films? Because clearly
Yes.
a lot of people are going to see these films.
I think we're like right to be skeptical of their quality, but it's just the industry cashing in on intellectual property people are aware of, so is more likely to make money than taking a chance on something that isn't already known.
Right. I think for general audiences, I think it's a matter of people seeing something that they recognize and be like, "Oh, there's another one. I want to go see that."
Basically, it's just more likely you'll see something that you are aware of inherently
I
than
don't
seeing something new.
Yeah, I don't think there's much thought into what the reasoning behind making these things is. I think it's basically like someone sees that they're making a new Lion King and they're like, oh, I love Lion King. I want to go see new Lion King.
Yeah, and kids will see it. A lot of these are just, I feel like, that kind of audience. Family friendly. That sort of stuff.
That's an important piece of it too.
Okay.
Considering how hard, actually not hard, considering how few and far between original pieces of family friendly filmmaking is, I'm not surprised that people go to the well to try and bring something to family audiences. Because besides like Hotel Transylvania and all the garbage that Illumination makes, that's all the family stuff. That's all the new family stuff.
It's like Pixar, but even they're kind of running on fumes now.
They're a weird case because they do kind of hit a little bit of everybody, I think. When it comes to Pixar, I think they just kind of have that precedent to them now, where they've touched basically every kind of audience depending on the film. Like I think WALL-E touches a very mature audience compared to something like Inside Out, which kind of gets a little bit of everybody, compared to something like The Good Dinosaur, which is literally just for babies. I think they are a weird case because their repertoire of films has run the gamut of audiences. So I think everybody looks out for a Pixar movie, and that's why they're coming out with 2 of them this year. Is that great, guys?
Not really.
What are they this year?
There's a film coming out next
Onward?
week. Actually, it's our
Onward?
next week or this
no.
weekend, called Onward.
I saw a trailer for that.
No thanks.
No.
There's
literally I thought it was like if I were to come up with like a cliche, like a spoof of like an animated kids film, like that's what that film would be.
Yeah, it's so tired at this point.
Sorry.
Coming from Pixar.
Anyway.
And then in a couple months in June, we have another Pixar film called Soul, which looked intriguing for part of the trailer, and then it becomes Inside Out, and you kind of forget about it. So I guess we'll see how that goes. Obviously, there's not as much going on for that movie right now as there is for Onward because it's coming out in like 4 or 5 days. But we'll have to see. It's weird. It's weird how soon we're getting these 2 Pixar films. I don't get it.
I guess back to the why question of like why these films get made. Yeah, money is the clear answer, but I don't know. I found like I saw some of the Aladdin, the new Aladdin. I was watching it, and it was like seemed to be just like the animated version with people. I mean, it was the whole entering the palace sequence. When the genie makes him look like a prince to impress the king, and it was like this great. It's a great musical number. In the thing, it was fun. I was watching it. It brought a smile to my face because the music's good. Will Smith was actually, I thought, pretty funny and entertaining as a genie. But then I was thinking, like, well, if I really wanted to like get Aladdin fillage, wouldn't I just watch Aladdin? Right. Yep. So like, I don't.
But money, Evan, money.
Right. Okay, money.
It's the new thing.
Is it not?
It's a shiny
Will Smith.
So is it
shiny brand new toy?
Is it stupid of me to think that like they could just re-release the old one and if they want to make more money off of the same property.
That would definitely be my preference, but I feel like they think
Because
it's
I would
more
go
of a-
see that. I would go see that. Like, I have no interest in seeing a live action version. I would totally go see an
But
animated
you're not
version
7,
in theaters.
Evan. This is what they're shooting for.
You're right. You know what? Maybe you're right.
I guess I'm trying to figure out where the connection is between that idea of trying to reach the young audiences with turning these things into live action. Is it
I
just
think it's just a sort of kind of in the similar sense to Marvel. Like it's their broad plan for these films.
I mean,
they're doing a lot of these.
I think the animation is a lot more appealing to a 7-year-old.
Right.
Than
Yeah,
a
I
live
think-
an animated lion is a lot more appealing than a photorealistic lion.
But it's also kind of just to show off
No?
that they can do it, and it gives them an excuse to. I feel like.
is it the kind of thing where they are showing off their because I don't think they need to show off their technology. I mean, they're the biggest company in the world.
I
Like
think it's part of it though, just to like say
don't
we can do it
know.
in live action now, and it's an excuse to remake it, and double dip on that sweet money.
And then it's like you can only, how many times can you remake it, right? It's like it's not even a good long-term strategy. Because
They
like,
only think quarterly, essentially. These sort of huge companies.
well, I
Except for Marvel.
don't think that's entirely true. I think that I think they think both short-term and long-term. So
Yeah.
if they have some sort of long-term strategy, it's like, oh, well, we're remaking Mulan this year, so we'll remake, Sleeping Beauty next year. It's like, well, that's not a long-term strategy, right? I don't know.
they're going to run out
know.
of properties.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
They're going to run out of things that people recognize
That's
and
exactly
would care
what I'm
to
saying.
remake.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Like they're going to get the Hunchback of Notre Dame and they're going to be like, all right, I don't want to see that.
You're
I
gonna
don't want to see a CGI hunchback.
They're gonna do Steamboat Willie, like what they're literally gonna go back to the very beginning. That's exactly what I'm saying. What's the end game here? I don't know.
I guess we'll have to
I don't
see.
see it because if you're making new IP, like that's a sustainable strategy.
But again, that's
even
a
if
financial risk for them, and I think they're only motivated by what do we know will make money.
well,
I think that's by far their motivation.
it's a financial risk, but
I know it's an investment.
Yeah,
It is. It makes
yeah.
sense in long term.
Maybe
but I
this
think they're
is-
really
yeah.
much more short-sighted than we
maybe
like to
I
think.
mean,
Yeah.
they have such an outreach of talent that they can find to come up with something in terms of writers and directors and every conceivable person with talent they can get. They can pay these people bank to come up with something for them, and they could do it because they're talented people. I guess they're just so stuck in the idea that these films are making them money that they're basically saying, why fix what isn't broken? I think it's a shame.
But like the originals weren't broken. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. I don't know what
I
the
guess
concept was.
I'm obviously wrong here,
I
but
think you're right in terms of actual point, but in terms of
Yeah.
their perspective of just being really craven and bottom line driven. This is what they're gonna do.
I wonder if and now we're using the term they, so who are we talking about? I guess we're talking about studio executives, basically. I guess they think that
I
they
guess.
are. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe this is just a case of film is always a field that's on the boundary of art and entertainment. Art and business.
Yeah.
And maybe this is just a case of the business side kind of taking over for a little bit in certain cases. I mean, that's not to say that the artistic side isn't still alive and well, but
Yeah, as we've discussed in
Yeah.
the past
there's
hour,
a
talking
lot
about the
of there's
film.
a lot of stuff to look forward to here
Absolutely.
that really is very going to be very creative. But
But then there's stuff like
Legally
like
Blonde
Legally Blonde
3.
3 and Minions 2 and just rehashes of bad things. Not to say that Legally Blonde is bad, but it's more like why? to
Who
get
was
to bring
asking
it
for
back.
this?
Yeah, exactly. This is why. Who was asking for this?
They found this one person on Twitter who was like, "Man, I just rewatched the Legally Blonde films. Guys, listen. I just rewatched the Legally Blonde films. We got to get another one. Reese Witherspoon's got to get on this like ASAP."
And you know what's weird actually? I guess part of the reason this strategy is working is because the generation now, the millennials and whatnot, and Generation X, right? Like they grew up on these films that they're remaking now.
Mm-hmm.
But the younger generations, in 30 years, what films are they going to... Because they're going to see these remakes now. What films are they going to go see? What films can they remake in the future? You know what I'm saying? Like,
what's going to be nostalgic for them?
What's going to be nostalgic for them is the remake.
TikTok
is the remake of The Lion King, right? Like, or if even that's not even. I guarantee you, frankly, that film won't capture the imaginations of the kids seeing it like the original did.
I think so too. Because you can watch a National Geographic documentary that looks literally exactly the same, except it's real. But you get the same emotional output from these characters in the new Lion King that you do in a National Geographic documentary.
Probably less, actually.
Probably less. So
if the documentary is good, you really feel for that gazelle as he's running away from that hyena. But anyway,
you are correct. So hopefully we won't have to ask ourselves why when these films do come out. I'm hoping that things like In the Heights and West Side Story, Bill and Ted, Mulan, even Scoob.
I know for a fact I'm seeing Scoob.
Even Legally Blonde 3. Even Venom 2, for God's sake. I hope that we're wrong.
Yeah.
I hope that these films come out and there's some merit and there's something to really latch on to, whether it be in front of the camera talent or behind the camera talent. I hope there's something. Because right now, just looking at it at face value, I am not only skeptically curious, not only am I, well, for some things, cautiously optimistic. Not only do I expect dumpster fires, not only am I interested in only a few of the bigger films coming out this year, but I don't know. We'll have to see. I didn't have a good bookend.
See what it looks like.
I didn't have a good bookend to that piece.
That's okay. I had sorry, I just had a thought and it escaped me. Here it was. It was because it's not like Hollywood was invented 10 years ago, right? Like it's been around for 100 years at this point. Were there always times when there was a group of moviegoers sitting in a room somewhere cinephiles sitting in a room somewhere talking about all the movies, thinking, why are the studios doing this, right? Like, is this a new phenomenon? That's what I'm saying.
I don't think so at all.
I think you do see, it's obviously not new, but you see these companies just obviously like becoming more and more massive conglomerates, you know? And I think that tends to make them more and more financially driven exclusively.
But they've been massive businesses for a long time, you know?
I think they've just gotten more massive. But I think that there have always been people like us, even if the internet had not been a platform at that point. I think, you know, people had their in-person film clubs that they went to every day or every week, and they would discuss the problems that they have with things like Disney. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. I'm sure people gathered around and talked about how crappy they think Hollywood cinema is compared to the stuff coming out of Italy and France in the 60s and 70s. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all.
I don't know. I wonder, you know, I wonder because people like to talk about that the industry's changing and the landscape's changing and whatnot. And if it is, how is it changing, you know, and is the feeling that some of the bigger, because you know there was a time during the Hollywood golden era when studio films were of great quality, and there wasn't an independent market that we looked to quality for. Right now, it seems like occasionally there's a big studio film that does have that kind of artistic, creative quality
that delivers, yeah.
Right? That delivers, but a lot of times we look to independent film for that, you know. So like. That's kind of what I want. You know, was there always a time that people were fed up about the studios chasing the dollar signs, or maybe yes, but maybe now it's more pronounced. I don't know. Yeah, I'm just thinking out loud, wondering about how people, similar to the last episode, we were thinking about how international audiences think about. If there are any viewers that have been around for hundreds of years, comment down below and let us know what you thought of movies back in the 1930s.
Right, at the very least, 1930s. That's our cap. Anyway, thank you all so much for taking a listen to this podcast, taking this journey into the beginnings of 2020 with us. We look forward to discussing more of these films as they come out, and we'll see y'all at the next club meeting. Take it easy.